this video, I would like to go over some key points related to the syllabus. You will want to get your copy of the syllabus and read it either electronically or print it out and read it and keep it handy throughout the semester. Hopefully I don't make any major changes to it. I did make a big change on day 2 of the semester, and I've re-uploaded it. I've noted in the orientation module that it's revised on August 21st, just so you know. Just to let you know also, how did I revise it? Well, nothing's revised in terms of policies, procedures, rules, like things like that, or office hours. All of that's the same. But what I did revise was what assignments are worth, and I just refigured the table of assignments. So like if you have 10 assignments in the class, I went through and I made sure that the point values made sense. There was a little bit of there was an error in there, and then I've revised just a few small assignments. So I did revise that section, but everything else would be the same. In case you already read it and you're like, oh great, what do I have to do now to reread it? Well, it's just the table of assignments. Let me quickly scan to that to show you. Here it is on page 9. This is revised, okay? And the points ranges are the same. Alright, so welcome to the syllabus, and the class is 100% online, but we do have 3 optional synchronous meetings. They're all for the same purpose, which is to learn how to podcast. You can sign up for those. You'll have opportunities in this module, I think, and maybe in a later module as well, in Module 1, to sign up for those dates. You can also check out the course plan to see where those dates fall on the sort of overall module structure for this semester. I have office hours Mondays and Tuesdays, and by appointment. So check those out and use them as you need to. I welcome you to come talk to me, and it's great to make face-to-face contact anytime I can. I don't have any specific online hours, but what I have noted is that occasionally I have to miss my office hours, and I will let you know if that's the case. And then what I'll do is I'll post makeup hours, and they could be online hours. I'm only supposed to have 5 as an online teacher. I only have to have 5 face-to-face office hours, and I can have 5 online. But I choose to do 10 face-to-face, and then I have this scheme where I have a backup, and I can use online hours as my backup. And sometimes I'll have to do that. There's no doubt. A few times, like there may be some doctor's appointments coming up, and I don't know if, anyway, whatever. That will be useful for stuff like that. In terms of my response time to you, I try to respond to you within a day, 24 hours, but sometimes it goes up to 48 hours, and occasionally, if you're unlucky, you ask me a question, and very occasionally I might take more than two days to get back, and I should never do that. I'll just tell you that right now. That's not my standard, and I would be, very apologetic if I did that. But for the most part, I respond on a daily basis, and on the weekends, you might find me a little less responsive, because I'm kind of a workaholic, and I'm really trying to work on learning how to relax and use my weekends to actually be with my family and that kind of thing. For the past, it seems like 10 years, I just haven't, ever since having kids, I think, it's like the way you manage time changes, and sometimes you tend to work too much, I think, because you just feel like you have so much to do. So anyway, I'm trying to work less on weekends, even though I will work probably every weekend this semester for the most part. But my response time may be limited on the weekend. In terms of communicating, there's a number of ways. You can use the course questions and answers discussion board inside of CourseDen, which is a public board, and the purpose of that would be to ask questions that you think others could also benefit from. If it's something personal to only you, or it's private in nature, absolutely send me a private message. But if you think there's any chance that other people can help you answer the question because maybe they found the answer that you're looking for, or B, it's something that everybody could benefit from, please put it on that course questions and answers discussion board. You can also send me CourseDen messages with your questions, and you can send me emails. It's not my preference that as a rule, I don't like to get all of your course questions in my email, but if you feel like whatever it is urgent and you need quicker attention, or you just want to make sure attention is being given. If let's say that I had just checked into CourseDen and then you post your question and then I'm going to be gone for like 12 hours or something, and you need help right now in the next 3 hours, send me an email, duplicate your problem out there, because that also goes into my smartphone and it catches my attention. It's more likely to. In addition, if you use this phone number to phone call me, it calls my office, my cell phone. You can text to it. You can also, if you leave a voicemail, that also sends me an email. So it's a great phone number to use. And please, no random calls, no unexpected, unplanned calls after 8. We can meet after 8 if we make an arrangement to do so. We can talk and visit in whatever medium you want. But just sort of unexpected calls, well, quite honestly, we probably won't answer the phone. That's if we don't know who's calling and it's like 8:15 or something. That's when I'm trying to get my kids to go to bed, and that requires all of my focus. And so talking on the phone at that point isn't easy for me. I wish it were, but it's not. So I have to be attending to them. In terms of online support, this group is your go-to Distance and Distributed Education Center. Here's their website, and you can also call them at 678-839-6248. But if you go to the website, you'll find all their contact information. They're the folks who support CourseDen. They also help you with the plugins that help make CourseDen run properly. All right. This section, Approaches to Instruction, was just added this year. I give you a note where I try to interpret it for you. Basically what it's saying is you want to probably work about 9 hours a week. That would probably be normal. And it's a requirement for SACS accreditation that we put this message in here, even though it feels a little bit awkward. I'll just put it that way. When you read it, you can see why. Course objectives. Basically in this class we're going to look at instructional practice, try to focus in on specific standards related to what it is that you're going to be teaching or doing, and we're going to engage in a number of projects that help you to move along in your understanding and your skills related to the use of technology. I'll let you read those course objectives. In terms of a textbook, there is not a textbook, but we have several readings. We have 3 book chapters. They're not super long. The first one is like, I think 6 pages long, and then they get a little bit longer after that. The next one's probably 20 or 25 pages, and then the next one's like 20 to 25 also. And they're all 3 very good readings. In the past you had to buy the book. It was like $100 and something. It's a great book, but because we have such a variety of students in this class, parts of that book just didn't apply to people, and it felt like a crime to make a special, it felt like a crime maybe to make a Spanish teacher, for example, purchase a book that had a section on social studies, math, all these other areas that maybe don't apply. And personally, to me, everything applies to everything. That's the way I see the world. But I understand how students have to focus sometimes, and so there were large chunks of that book that just were going unread by a lot of students because they didn't directly apply to what they need to know. So we've sort of narrowed in on some essential reading. You'll see it in there. There's also some articles linking out to sort of current event type things going on in schools, but there's not a lot of heavy reading in the class. I can add more if you give me feedback that that's appropriate. Alright, so computer compatible webcam is something that you'll want to have. Oh, but wait, you want a TK20 subscription? You probably know about that. Check out these links if you don't know what I'm talking about. You'll want a computer compatible webcam, which even beyond this class, it's a very useful thing for a 21st century citizen of the world to have, so that it lets you connect to people through the internet. Somebody you love is at a distance from you, and that webcam is a tool you can use to connect. And maybe in terms of bringing it back to the profession of teaching, there may be ways that you can use a webcam to connect learners with other people that could help those learners, help the students learn something, see something, that kind of thing. So a webcam, it's a worthwhile purchase, and probably half or more of you already have one. Please don't buy a Kodak brand webcam. All right, read more about that in there if you're curious about why. You do want to have daily computer access. Occasionally I have like one student that has some crisis. The computer is no longer working for weeks at a time, and what you have to do then is you have to go to your backup plan. You have to figure out, all of you need to have a backup plan, but you need to get to a computer. And even if my computer broke down, I could technically, it would be hard, it would be very hard actually. I could go to the Neva Lomason Library down in downtown Carrollton, for example. Let's say I don't live in a town with a university. I can go down to my little local library and I can get on there and I can do my coursed in work. I can access things, I can print things. It costs a little money to print there, and I could do all of that at the library, just like all of us in the state of Georgia could. You could go to your local Pines library, and trust me, the Neva Lomason Library ain't that great, but it could be done. You probably want to get some some earplugs or headphones, because library computer stuff gets noisy. Anyway, point is, you can do it even if your computer goes kaput. You need to make sure that you've got that sort of second string sort of backup plan for how you're going to access this class. Plugins are an important thing that helps your browser work, and you know a web-based class is all about that web browser. Speaking of web browsers, this is not written in the syllabus. It may not be written. It's written somewhere in the class. I just don't know where. You want to have more than one web browser. If you're a PC user, I recommend 3 web browsers. Internet Explorer, not in this order. Let me put it in the order I recommend. Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, and Internet Explorer. I rarely use Internet Explorer in coursed in. It gets really confused. I'm not even going to go into it. I talk about it in another place inside of the orientation module. I don't recommend it. It works fine, but generally the other two, the Mozilla Firefox or Chrome, perform a little bit better. The DDEC people, they swear by using Google Chrome. They say it's the best one. I don't agree, but you know, you'll have to figure that out. If you're a Mac user, you've got Safari. I'm not really sure how it works. I don't know if it works very well with coursed in. I think it's iffy. Mozilla Firefox seems to work okay, and Google Chrome seems to work okay for Mac users. So you want to have multiple browsers, because sometimes something will show up on one and it will be blocked on the other, and you're not always sure. You know, it's just good to have multiple views. I guess that's kind of what it is. It gives you multiple views into the course. And it's just a good backup. Alright, you want to have speakers or headphones so that you can hear things. I'm assuming that you're using speakers or headphone to listen to this presentation. The TMC has webcams and it has microphone headsets. If you don't want to buy them and you live near the campus and you're able to come here, you can check out the webcams that I've put down there. You can check out headsets to make your podcast. So if you don't want to spend that money and you live within an hour or something, you can come on a Saturday or a weekday during the TMC. It's called Tech Hub now, actually, during their hours, but it's at this website. During their hours, and you can use their stuff and check it out, and then you just use it for the day or something. Okay? 3 types of tasks in this class. We have discussions, assignments, and quizzes. If you don't know how to make a discussion posting, please watch this video right here. Sorry, I was slowing down because I was reading. I was looking for something at the same time. You can watch this video. It'll show you how to make a discussion post in coursed in. Assignments are projects will be submitted through the assignment Dropbox. And you can watch this video if you don't know how to do that. There's a few things, there's at least one thing that doesn't get submitted through, it does not get submitted through a discussion board, an assignment Dropbox, or an assessment. And that is the roster picture. For the roster picture, I just go and check it once it's due. And then I give feedback, and then I go plug in a grade. There's just no feedback to give except complete or incomplete. So I don't think it's worth even using a Dropbox for it. But for the most part, everything else has its proper place in one of those places in coursed in. All right. All right, so coursework and evaluation. These are the sort of assignments that we've got in the class this semester and their point value. We have a total of 257 points worth of work, and here are the ranges for how you earn the final note or grade that you want. In terms of attendance, I urge you to come into the class at least 4 days per week. Okay? That's just from a student who has taken more than 20 online classes now. I feel like quite an old hand at taking online classes. Just take it from me as a student. If you don't get into that class, you are out of touch. It's hard to care about what's going on in that class, and I know because I've been there. In fact, it's day 2 of this semester, and I have yet to log into one of my online classes that I'm taking as a student. And I'm already starting to feel that kind of guilty, distant feeling, a little bit of resentment, like, how dare it be day 2 of this semester? I don't have time to go in there today. Maybe I'll go in tomorrow. And really, I need to make sure I go into that class today for at least 30 minutes to try to figure out what's going on. And that's what you need to do, and you have to step up and make yourself do that. Late work policies. For discussions, you cannot make up a discussion late. There's no extra time built into discussions, okay? So and we're going to have a discussion for every module, every single one, and there's always like 3 people that it seems like we go through the first 3 modules and they never knew there was a discussion. And that's because they didn't read that module checklist. They didn't look at the course plan. The course plan would tell them, and the module checklist would tell them. The table above here would tell you that every module there's a discussion there. Module 2 there's a discussion. I mean, there's multiple places that contain the same information. So you want to make sure you're keeping yourself organized. You always ask yourself, what do I have to do? I hate to put it this way, but what are the hoops I have to jump through for points? What is going to be graded this week or this module? What module am I in, for that matter? So beware, because discussion boards you can't turn them in late. Okay? Where am I? There I am. Okay. Assignments. They also have due dates, and they, like discussions, are due. Discussions will be due the last Sunday of the module, like your whole body of work for the discussion is due on the last Sunday. Your initial post is actually due the first Thursday of the module, but as long as you get everything for that discussion in by that last Sunday, you should be fine. As for assignments, they are also due on the last Sunday of the module, and I urge you to get your stuff in by that due date. However, we have something called the cutoff window, which I personally am very fond of. In fact, I would just be very happy if everybody could get their stuff in by the cutoff, quite honestly. But I urge you, let me stop trying to distract you. You need to get your stuff in by the due date, but if you need it, there's an extra week attached to the Dropbox that lets you turn things in a week later. So up to the next Sunday, you have that cutoff. Except for the last module, beware, the cutoff for that is only 3 days. But the cutoff for all other assignment Dropboxes is 7 days, a week, up to the next Sunday. And if you can get your work into that Dropbox, even in that cutoff window, you'll generally find me to be a very happy camper in terms of processing it, giving feedback, looking at your work. If you can get your work in the Dropbox, I am very happy. That's why when you submit something late during this cutoff, technically it's late, it may be subject to a 10% deduction. And that's really my way of saying it probably won't be. At some point in the semester, if I find that everybody's using the cutoff and they're never meeting deadlines, I might send you out a message saying it is happening from now on, people. Get your stuff in on time, or I am going to assess that 10% deduction. So that's my way of saying I probably won't even do that 10% deduction, but that's the rule. I need to have it written so that I can do it if I need to. So watch those deadlines in the assignment Dropbox, but we do have the padding of the cutoff window, and even if I do assess the 10%, it's not that big a deal. That's not that bad. Quizzes, there's no extension on quizzes. But there's one little extension. Let me put it this way. Quizzes are the deadline for a quiz is the last Sunday of the module. That's when you want to have it done. But what I do with all the quizzes is I add plus 1 day. I add an extra day for padding. So you actually have till the following Monday night. So if it's due Sunday, then you have till the next day at midnight. I just do that because I don't want late night calls on Sundays. I don't want you panicking on Sundays at 11:55. You know, I give you that extra day so that you can wake up the next day, Monday, and deal with it. Or give me a call, or call the DDC if you're having trouble with your quiz feature or something. So that's just to keep sanity in the picture partly. But I can't put a week longer. There's a reason why certain things do have more lenience, I think that's a word, leniency, than others. Discussions, you don't want everybody posting those late because then it's not a discussion. Assignments don't impact everybody as much as a community. That's why we can be lenient with that. Quizzes actually need to be done in a timely fashion because they relate to the learning of content that helps support the assignments that you do. So if you're late on that, then you end up compounding the problem and being even later in your assignments. And so that's why there's leniency when it comes to the assignments themselves, the projects. And that's why you have that cutoff window, and you know, it's not that huge of a deal if you're a few days late on that, as long as it's in the cutoff. Quizzes, however, need to be done in a timely fashion, and you do have that 1 extra day of padding for all of them. Okay? And finally, not finally actually, oops. You know, you thought, wow, this is a pretty good deal, right? I can do this. Well, it gets even better. We have something called the oops Dropbox, and you can turn in 1 late assignment or discussion with no penalties. You can just do that, and all's well. Just read about it here. If you don't use the oops, you can get +3 in extra credit. And then there's always, though, people that don't fit into the previous categories. They don't turn things in properly. They wait till December 1st and suddenly they're interested in the class. Well, what happens to you? Well, if you decide to do that, I will still grade your work because this is part of the philosophy of competency-based learning, which is partly my philosophy. You know, it's part of my philosophy of this course, is that if you can demonstrate the competencies as represented by the projects, it doesn't necessarily matter to me if you did it in a 4-week period of time or 15-week period of time. I mean, students in summer do it over 6 weeks. You guys do it over 15 or 16 weeks, you know. So if people want to crunch it down, that's fine. But there's a penalty because it costs me time when you do this. It costs me time in terms of conversations, helping you analyze your situation, giving you advice, when really it's your job to figure out, you know, given that I've laid all this out, it's your job to figure out how you're going to work through your course and be responsible, and you're going to be teachers, so you want to be more on the responsible side of things than the you know, slack off all semester and then beg for mercy at the end kind of side of things. And I know most of you are going to be super on top of it, and a lot of you will probably be borderline, you know, amazing. Or probably amazing. Let me just, not borderline. I was going to say borderline obsessive, because I know I get that way with my own classes, and I always have a few students that just panic about everything, and you don't have to do that in this class. You're going to be fine. There's plenty of opportunities to get points and do well. But anyway, for those few people, maybe 3 of you will do this, or 2, or maybe 1, I don't know. Here's the deal. If you don't submit things in the Dropbox within that cutoff, and you've used up your 1 oops salvation, then anything you turn in to me, and quizzes you can't make up. So any discussions or assignments that you submit will be assessed at 50% of their value. Okay? And that's pretty generous. You know, some people would look askance at me that this is, you know, you're undergraduates, you know, therefore I should be harsh with you with your grading. But the truth is, I'm not huge into grading. I'm not. It's not a power that I relish. I'm not. You know, I'm not really emotional about it. I think some professors are emotional about it, and they like to get mad and deal out punishments. But you know, to me, if you do the work, then let's move on. Let's grade it and move on, but here's a little penalty, by the way. All right, so some tips for meeting deadlines. Don't procrastinate. Try to submit all your work by Saturday. That way you have a little padding for technical difficulties. You might want to read those instructions pretty carefully. There's also often videos trickled throughout instructions to help show things. Make sure you know how to use CourseDen. If you have to submit something late, just do that. Get it in that Dropbox, and you don't have to apologize. I always have a few students that like to apologize every time they submit in the cutoff window, and that's fine. You can do that if you want to communicate that you regret doing that. But I don't expect it. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you submit in that cutoff window. All right, professional conduct. I will let you know if you're. I mean, you know how to behave as a professional. I think. I mean, we're all learning to be more professional. I think as we get older, but you know, read these suggestions, and if there's a problem, I'll probably address you. You know, I'll contact you in class as well. If you're attacking people in the discussion boards, and I mean, you can attack ideas all you want, but make sure you don't attack the people. You know. All right, so email policy, make sure that you're checking your West Georgia email. I don't generally send emails out, although I do probably to one of you will probably get an email because I'll need to contact you. So be sure that you're not, that your box isn't over quota. Academic honesty, make sure you're citing sources, you're not plagiarizing, you cite, you know, if you present something in your digital movie or your tech cast, make it very clear where you got that idea if it's not original to you. Let me know if you have disabilities that I need to know about, particularly in the form of the paperwork that some of you will probably give me so that I know how I can work better with you. And let me know if you need videos to be closed captioned. Extra credit. There's a few extra credit opportunities. There is no extra credit Dropbox at this time, although there are several Dropboxes that count as extra credit. There used to be one called Extra Credit Dropbox, and I'm not going to edit this because it's so minor. There are multiple extra credit opportunities in the class. If you don't use OOPS, that's extra credit. If you acknowledge that you understand how to take course surveys, that will be extra credit. And there may be one other thing as well. All right. The course plan is my favorite document because it shows us what module we're looking at, what's the date for that module, and what are the assignments that carry points that you're doing in that module. It also lists in brief the topics that we cover. So it's a global view of the class. Make sure you check that out. Tips for success. Make sure when you log into CourseDen you check your mail, check the discussion boards, check that course plan so that you always know where you're at, because if you're anything like me, you get back in that online class and you're like, where am I? What am I supposed to be doing in here? I always forget. I have to go back and check everything and kind of remember what it is I need to be doing. And it just takes about 5 minutes to warm back up. And I know that. All right. Make sure you know what you're supposed to be doing in the learning module of that week. And very importantly, use the checklist. Every single module has a checklist that will tell you in detail what you should do. The online week is about 15 weeks this semester. We do not have a final. The week begins on Monday and ends on Sundays. Again, each module has its own checklist. I suggest that you make sure that you have between 9 and 14 hours per week to work on the class. 9 should be sufficient, but if there's any chance that you need more time, try to find, an extra few hours, because sometimes some things will take you longer than others. You might have a week where you spend 15 hours on your work in this class, and then another where you spend 6 on it. It's very hard to gauge because it's very particular to each student. So just give yourself some wiggle room in there, and I build in flexibility for that very reason, because I want to give you wiggle room as well. So mind the sharks for online success. You can read those. And here's a note about administrative stuff and how you don't want to get dropped, so make sure you read that note. All right, well, that's the syllabus overview. 30 minutes, very thorough. I hope I didn't bore you to tears. I probably did, and I doubt anybody's even watching it at this point. But anyway, thanks.